Guys and girls, let's get the show on the road. And again, if you like the rant, share, like, comment. Share, like, comment. Good to see everyone there. Yes, I'm looking and I'm feeling fresh because I've got to say to you, on the Saturday night when we went into lockdown 42 days ago, I decided I was going to replace what I didn't have with something that I've got. I lost Bikram, but I gained the Bay Run. I lost Anytime Fitness, but I gained some dumbbells. And guys and girls, I've got to tell you, 7 weeks in, I have to say to you, I'm feeling fantastic in terms of my fitness level. And I know that a lot of people are beginning to feel lethargic. People are beginning to feel tired, those in Sydney. And also, I'm going to touch on today on some of the sensitive subjects that, are creating quite a bit of division between our brothers and our sisters in the real estate world and also further abroad. Stephen Cromarty, how are you, my friend? Good to see you, Stephen. One of the greats. You've got to follow this guy. Love Realty in the Newcastle area. Guys and girls, I've got to say to you, as Anmol says, one door closes, another one opens. But before we start off with today, because I've been bombarded by messages and a few phone calls, I want to let you know that I've got some information in regards to the new rules in New South Wales. I'll get those out of the way so we don't have to bore the non-New South Wales people later on. I've got to say to you that nothing has really changed except in New South Wales, all the regional areas, all of New South Wales, all of the country areas, all of the coastal areas, the Byron Bays, the Port Macquaries, the, berries, what have you, they now have the same rules as Greater Sydney, which is no open for inspections and no on-site auctions. But after all that scary press conference that Gladys Berejiklian conducted on Saturday afternoon, nothing's changed. Nothing is changed. You can still do in New South Wales private inspections and listing presentations. And you can, if you there's a new law now that you can't travel within more than 5 kilometres, used to be 10 kilometres. Well, it doesn't affect you in real estate. It's business as usual there. That doesn't apply to the real estate aspect of your work. It applies to you doing exercise. Now you've got to exercise within 5Ks, or you've got to go to shopping centres within 5Ks, right? But in terms of real estate, it's all the same. But guys and girls, I'm going to bring in a few banners that are going to keep me on track. Dumb things that are happening right now. Dumb things that are happening right now, my friends. So yesterday was in fact at 1:30 p.m. Yesterday was exactly 3 years ago that my younger brother George passed away. And those of you that follow me on social media know that thing, it's I've got better. I've got used to the idea that George is no longer with us. And whilst, the occasional, not often, I wake up and I go to ring him and I forget that he's passed, and then I remember. And regardless, I headed to the cemetery today to go visit him, which I often do. And when I got there, I was told that I couldn't go in and that the cemetery was closed for the next 2 weeks. And yes, Lisa, it's still very raw. It's still very raw. Anyway, yeah, so what's the point? The point is I wanted to go visit my brother. And I got a few security guards there saying, no, you can't come in. Anyway, I'm not the type that argues, right? I just say, okay, I said, but is something's happened here? Because it doesn't make sense. Open air, there's no one there. You can't get COVID out in the open air. I mean, it's pretty much and agreed. It's not an opinion. It's a fact. It's highly unlikely out in open air. And I just said to the guy, I said, I just can't understand, like, what was the thinking of that rule? Like, why would you be able to actually go to Bunnings to buy a screwdriver or some lattice? Hey, let's go. Hey, sweetie, let's go to Bunnings and let's go and see and get some lattice, right? So you go to Bunnings, right? And then there's another 300 people in the Bunnings store. I mean, there are people going to Bunnings, right? There are people going to Bunnings that have never gone to Bunnings in their whole life, right? And by the way, there are people going to Coles and Woolies every day that would go maybe once a week previously. It's just the way that people operate. No logic to it. It's just the way people operate. So, it's interesting, that you can go to Officeworks and buy a stapler in a big warehouse that will, if there is COVID in there, that'll spread like wildfire. Anyway, what's the point? The point is that I've been thinking to myself, there's a lot of dumb things that are happening at the moment, right? There's a lot of dumb things, Another dumb thing. Let's talk about other dumb things that are happening at the moment, right? Okay, here's a dumb thing. Why does Gladys Berejiklian and Chant and the Copper have a press conference every day at 11 o'clock in person? Like, if you want to actually show leadership where your video matches your audio and where your behavior matches what you say, why don't you do your press conference from Zoom? Why do you have to actually stand around like 4 or 5 of you there? And you know what it's like. They get dressed up in those colorful jackets. Gladys, like, some of those jackets look like they've been pulled out of one of those Miller's fashion shops, with her shoes from Williams Shoes, those flat shoes that she shows up with. And again, not having a go at her. But think about it, right? Think about it. What is she saying in person that she can't do in Zoom? Because I've got to tell you, the average person looks at people's behavior. They don't look at what people say. Why do you have to go in front of 30 journalists and possibly, if you do believe that the virus can actually spread, right? Why would you actually put yourself amongst all these other people? Do it with Zoom. Sit at home and let people know, hey, by the way, don't go out like me. I'm not going out either. And I haven't got my Miller's jacket on as well. And I'm just sitting here with my T-shirt, right? Yeah, stay inside. That's what I'm doing. Guys and girls, think about it. As Lisa says, actions speak louder than words. But there is a lot of dumb things that are happening at the moment, my friends. There is a lot of dumb things happening at the moment. And anyway, guys and girls, let me move on. I want to get through a few things here today. And this is the other one I want to get through. The hate between Vaxxers and Anti-Vaxxers, right? The hate between Vaxxers and Anti-Vaxxers. So here's the deal. I think that it's become a bit like a religion, right? It's like you truly believe with conviction, right? Hey, man, just do what you want to do and let other people do what they want to do. But there's a bit of psychology attached to this, my friends. And that is confirmation bias. So confirmation bias is very interesting because it says that if you have a view of something, then what you do is you're biased and you're constantly looking for things that actually validate. So you look at research, you read things, you talk to people, and then all they do is they become proof points which further make your belief even stronger to make it a conviction. But in fact, you're actually using a psychological principle called confirmation bias. And then occasionally there's a bit of tension because you get what is called cognitive dissonance. And cognitive dissonance, I may have spelt it wrong there, but cognitive dissonance is when actually something happens which puts tension in the idea that you believe because it's not in line with that. Example, you're a person that believes that, COVID is not real, or it's a light flu, and it's a bit of a conspiracy theory to get people jabbed, right? And people really don't get sick, but they want to actually follow you. The health department of the world wants to follow you. And some people may even think bigger than that there's a big health order and there's a big political agenda at play, right? And then all of a sudden, you actually have a neighbor of yours who you speak to, who's 26, 27 years of age, and they contract COVID, and then you see it with your own eyes that they cop a heavy dose of it, right? And they go on to a breathing machine, whatever you call it, incubator, I think. Is that what it's called? I'm quite not sure. Ventilator, and they're in intensive care. And what happens is all of a sudden there's tension with your confirmation bias, right? And by the way, I've brought an example that actually has. We do, and please don't text me and don't ask me and don't email me because it is a very private matter. We do have one of our brothers or sisters, let's call it, in our real estate community that is pretty seriously ill in hospital as we speak. And they are a young person with no underlying condition. But this is not about me telling you one way or the other. That's for you guys to choose. But Susan actually raises another very good point, and the point here is called attribution bias. Attribution bias, and I'm going to read it out. Attribution bias, the tendency for people to overemphasize dispositional or personality-based explanations for behaviors observed in others while underemphasizing situational explanations. In other words, people have a cognitive bias to assume that a person's actions depend on what kind of person that person is, rather than on the social and environmental forces that influence the person. In layman's speak, what we're really talking about here is this simple concept is that for whatever reason, people might have a belief about something, right? It doesn't define them and say, because they believe that, they're all that. They're the bad guy. They're in a dark spot, right? They're totally dumb. Because I know what's happening. Both sides think the other person is misinformed, right? Both sides, the Vaxxers versus the Anti-Vaxxers. And that's what makes it so difficult here, right? That's what makes it so difficult that people have this strong view. And I totally get it. I understand it because right now I'm hearing from the real estate community that there are a lot of people, particularly young people, that are concerned that if they get vaccinated, that they may become infertile. I understand that. Or if they get vaccinated, that it may lead to actually more serious health conditions down the track. Then on the other side, right, you've got those who are upset that the people aren't getting vaccinated because they're saying you're slowing us getting out of this because these rules have been set up. So it's basically saying that if we get to 70%, we get life to some sort of normality again, and then 80%, we go back to the way things were, and the vaxxers are unhappy with the anti-vaxxers, right? So I understand that. I understand that both people have views. But I've got to say to you, now, this is not the time for hate. This is not the time to actually try and self-implode and self-sabotage. And it's interesting over the years, humans do that. Humans seem to actually, create problems bigger than what they are. So I would just actually say to people, just be curious about the other person's point of view, right? Be curious about the other person's point of view and understand that they're coming from a specific position, and don't judge, right? Now, gang, couple of other things I want to speak to you about. And by the way, this is a weekend for me because I know I'm trying to live in my brother's honor, right? And living in my brother's honor on a special weekend says to me, what you want to do. I know what my brother was a sort of person that liked people to be happy. My brother was this sort of person. He did not believe in the game of a zero-sum game. if this person wins, then this person must lose. He just wanted people to be happy. And I'm just going to, say to people in our community, just be respectful and understand that those principles I'm speaking about are probably in play when people are opening up their mouths. Anyway, let me move on to my next thing I want to speak to you about tonight, and that is this one here, a little bit more educational, 4,000 weeks. I was listening to a podcast by Ryan Holiday interviewing a guy on the Bay Run today, and I was just having a listen to this concept of 4,000 weeks. Now, do you know that it is 4,000 weeks that the average person lives? So if you do the numbers, 4,000 weeks works out to just around the 80-year mark, right? The 80-year mark, that you're going to live to 80 years of age, right? 4,000 weeks. So when I heard the 4,000 week principle, I thought to myself, you know what? It's a funny number because on the one hand, it doesn't sound a lot. But on the other hand, it sort of, sounds like it's a fair bit. But here's the deal. As much as this, at the moment, so let's talk about the Sydney lockdown. It's been 7 weeks. So realistically, 7 weeks out of 4,000 weeks so far. I mean, the numbers are less than 0.2% of your total weeks. It's not a on the big scheme of things, it's really, really small how much is impacted. And then I got thinking to myself but the weeks are running out. And one of the things that I think we've learned with COVID and learning to live during a pandemic, is how fragile life is. I know that the average person, and I know that I thought to myself, man, we can't have the stuff that happened in 1919, the Spanish flu happened. We're much progressed. We're smarter. We've got more money. We've got more resources. But in fact, I've got to say to you, thank you, Stephen. Thank you, Catherine. I've got to say to you that, so Susan's just done the calculation, it's 0.2%. So 7 weeks out of 4,000 weeks is 0.2%. But it got me thinking, you know what this pandemic has taught us? It doesn't matter whether it's 1919, 1920, or 2021. We learn about the fragility of life and how vulnerable life is. And no matter how much smarter we've got and artificial intelligence and the fact that we can fly to space and the fact that, my Tesla can drive without a human in it, the fact is that a virus can just stop everything, right? And guys and girls, it also made me realize that one of the things that you learn, like, I don't know about you, but when I have time to think about things, I think about things like, near-death experiences, right? And I have had a near-death experience, like a cancer diagnosis is a plane crash that if you survive it, right? A plane crash that if you survive it, or a car crash, anything that brings, obviously cancer is a big one because it's so common. And if you have this near-death experience and you survive it, what actually happens is you get perspective. Right? You get a different reference point as to what darkness is. And the reason I share this with you is, why wouldn't you use the current period that we're going through as a reference point to help you when you move forward from this, as a reference point to help you understand how fragile life is? And when you actually learn how fragile life is, and then when you focus on the fact that, in fact, we've actually got 4,000 weeks in our life. And for many of us, like myself, who's age 54, right? I've got to tell you that I'm past the 2,000 week mark, right? Like, I haven't done the numbers, but I would say that, I'm closer to the 3,000 week mark. And that's assuming that I get to the 4,000 week mark, which is the 80 years of age. Now, the truth is, for myself, Think about it. I haven't had an incredible track record, right, with health. It's not my fault, but it became my problem. But thank you, God, and everything that I've done along the way, plus the great doctors I've had, which mean that as I sit here today in August 2021, I'm healthy, I'm clean, and I have no evidence of disease. But I got to tell you, it's really, really helps me to have gone through this experience. And that's why I use the term repeatedly. Some of the best gifts in life come badly wrapped. Because when you're given a near-death experience and you're able to look at life with a different set of eyes, you end up seeing things a little bit more colorful. You end up seeing things in a little bit more grateful perspective. You end up actually being a little bit more compassionate. And of course, resilience and fearlessness actually go up a few notches. So gang, maybe during this time, it's good to actually sit back and reflect about this 4,000 week. And I don't know where you're at as you're watching this video right now. I don't know where you're at. I don't know whether you're at the 2,000 week mark. And listen, I feel grateful because there are some people that are born on this planet that actually only get 10 weeks. They don't get 4,000 weeks. There are young people that die very, very early in their first year. Then there's a bunch of people that, you know what, they only get to around 7 or 8 years of age. And I don't know what that number works out to, 200 weeks, 300 weeks, 400 weeks. The point I'm making is you start realizing in life, it's not about getting through the weeks. It's about getting stuff out of your weeks. So why wouldn't you, as an experiment this week, make a decision to just build an amazing week? And can I give you a tip? It starts with building an amazing day. A day by design, not a day by accident. And in fact, I'm going to tell you, fundamentally, your life are your days together. In fact, your days are your life in miniature, the more I think about it. Your days are your life in miniature. Thank you for doing that calculation, Rebecca. And as Lisa says, get uncomfortable. You know, one of the things I've learned? One of the things I've learned is this. We overestimate often how much discomfort there's going to be in certain things, right? Look, realistically, in a few months' time, I mean, before I came on here, I've got to say to you, I was watching the EPL from England. It's just resumed. Manchester United won 5-1. You know, Chelsea won. My team, Tottenham, is playing tonight. And I just couldn't believe it. The stadiums are full. The noise was coming through. We're talking 100,000 people. The stadiums were chock-a-blocker. They were absolutely full. Think about it. What's coming is better than what we're going through, right? And by the way, to anyone that's feeling unhappy, particularly my real estate brothers and sisters, I want to remind you, Melbourne, no inspections, no private inspections, no listing presentations, over 200 days of that. So just have perspective. And remember, we've got winners, we've got watchers, and we've got whingers. You're a winner. You participate in the solution. You don't participate in the problem. Let's move on. The next thing I want to share with you is, let me see. Man, I reckon I'm done. Has common sense gone mad a little bit with some of the stuff we've been seeing? The fragility of life and lack of control, that's what's come out of this. You know what? I know what it's like. I've been down that path where every hour in my diary was measured and focused, and I wouldn't waste it. And I know the feeling, my friends, when that's taken away from you. I know the feeling, my friends. You see, I've got to explain to you what we've learned during this pandemic is that ideal days and ideal weeks go out the window because you no longer have total control of your time and what you can and can't do. And that, my friends, is a big lesson in life. I reckon that's where people screw themselves. They think they've got control, but they don't. You've got control over a few things in your life, like your attitude and your response to situations, but not much else. And I clearly remember before going into hospital to get treatment, I thought to myself that I was the master of my diary all the time. Nah, when you enter the hospital world, all of a sudden, you enter a world of alarms that go beep, 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 beep. Someone coming here, measuring your blood pressure, someone making sure that your pulse is right so they can continue giving you the treatment. You sit there and you wait for doctors for 2-3 hours. You actually enter a different time. Time actually loses its energy. It no longer matters because you've got no control of it. Guys and girls, if you're finding this rant valuable, please share, like, comment. Share, like, comment. To me, I would highly value that. And as I'm speaking to you, it would be wrong for me not to mention businesses that I love and support and I have a relationship with. The best CRM system on the planet, Agent Box. If you struggle getting vendor paid advertising, do what the tens of thousands are doing and use Campaign Agent. If you want to get your legal world set up that you can have contracts on the spot, Secure Exchange, my friends. If you want to get great digital pre-listing kits, you use none other than RealBase. Guys and girls, I want to let you know that at the end of the day, what you're doing, and by the way, have you noticed all these things are tech tools? I've got to tell you, never, ever, ever forget that technology is not there to substitute you. It's there to complement you. Example, the other product that I adore and love is Before You Bid. Before You Bid allows you to get pest and buildings done beforehand, and then what you basically do is you don't have to go back and forward to a pest or building inspection. I love these companies. So Susan, a few people are asking for those. Can you do us a favor, Susan, and put all those companies that we're ambassadors for on the link when you send the email out? Anyway, my friends, I think we've covered everything, but I've got to say to you, as I finish off here today, let's finish on this point. The fragility of life and the lack of control. My friends, remember, 8,000 weeks is roughly what we get. I don't know where you're at. You might be at the 2,000 week mark. But I'm hoping that what we're going through at the moment is giving you a bit of perspective to let you know there's no such thing as an unimportant week, right? They all matter. And for me, what does a winner's guide to pandemic living look like? Not too dissimilar to what it's like when there is no pandemic. It basically means that you've got to exercise well. You've got to eat well. You've got to sleep well. They're the 3 platforms, the foundations that underpin everything. Why? Because it's an energy game that we're in. And I've got to tell you, more energy equals more prospecting. More prospecting equals more deals. More deals equals more money. I've said it before. Money doesn't get rid of problems, but it helps you arrive at your problems with style and dignity. And I've also got to tell you, if you nail those 3 things, the exercise, the sleep, and the eating clean, then you set yourself up for success. Then what else do you do as a winner in a pandemic? You speak to people. You show them that you care. You call them up. You ring them on the phone. You can ring them and educate them, or you can ring them up and just say, hey, I'm just calling you because at the moment, we're still around. It's business as usual for us in a very unusual way. And I just wanted to see, is there any help I could give you at this time? And if you actually have those conversations with people at a large level with empathy, if you make sure that you're talking to them before they need you, they'll be talking to you when they need you. Tom Panos, signing off.